Words of our Divine Mother from the book The Mother, Question and Answers of 1954, Volume 6, page 356. Question by a Sadhak, Sweet Mother. Here it is written, a spiritual atmosphere is more important than outer conditions. If one can get that and also create one's own spiritual air to breathe in and live in it, that is the true condition of progress. How can one get that and also create one's own true spiritual atmosphere? For that, our Divine Mother says, this is presided by the inner discipline. You can create your atmosphere by controlling your thoughts, turning them exclusively towards the sadhana, controlling your actions, turning them exclusively towards the sadhana, abolishing all desires and all useless external ordinary activities, living a more intense inner life, and separating yourself from ordinary things, ordinary thoughts, ordinary reactions, ordinary actions. Then you create a kind of atmosphere around you. Our Divine Mother says, for example, instead of reading in any odd thing and chatting and doing anything, whatever, if you read only what helps you to follow the path, if you act only in conformity with what can lead you to the divine realization, if you abolish in yourself all desires and impulses, turn towards external things, if you calm your mental being, appease your vital being, if you shut yourself against suggestions coming from outside and become immune to the action of people surrounding you, you create such a spiritual atmosphere that nothing can touch you, and it no longer depends at all on circumstances or on whom you live with or on the conditions you live in, because you are enclosed in your own spiritual atmosphere. And that is how one obtains it, by turning one's attention solely to the spiritual life, by reading only what can help in the spiritual life, by doing only what leads you to the spiritual life, and so on. Then you create your own atmosphere. But naturally, if you open all the doors, listen to what people tell you, follow the advice of this one and the inspirations of that one, and you are full of desires for outside things, you cannot create a spiritual atmosphere for yourself. You will have an ordinary atmosphere like everybody else. Then the sadhak says, Sweet Mother, here it is written, do not be troubled by your surroundings and their oppositions. These conditions are often imposed at first as a kind of ordeal imposed by divine. This was the question. For this, our Divine Mother says, he has not put that in that way, has he? No. You must take it in the way it helps you the most. This is the difficult, very difficult question. I've already explained to you quite often that when you live in an ordinary consciousness, and to the extent you remain on a certain plane, which is a combination of most material, vital, physical, that is an ordinary plane of life, you are subject to the determinism of this plane. It is this subjection to the determinism of this plane which puts you exactly in these conditions, for you have deep within you something which aspires for another life but doesn't yet know how to live that other life, and which pushes from inside in order to get the conditions necessary for this outer life. These are the inner conditions, they are not outer conditions, but this takes its support on outside obstacles in order to strengthen itself in its will to progress. And so, if you look at it from within, you can even say that it is you yourself who create the difficulties to help you to go forward. It is you who yourself create the difficulties to help your own self to move forward. Now, if you enter another plane and tell yourself, but this is a thing subject to many explanations and discussions, if you say that there is nothing in the universe that is not the work of the divine, which is essentially true, though not true here, then you say, good, it is the divine who organizes everything. Consequently, it is He who has organized the difficulties also. But this is indeed a very childish way of putting things over simple. Only as I said at the beginning, if it helps you to think in this way, think in this way. You see, thought is so approximated thing, it is so far from truth. It is very far from truth. It is only a kind of a vague, incomplete, confused reflection, false, full of falsehood, even at its best. So, in truth, it is a moment to be practical and tell yourself, well, I shall adopt this thought of it. Helps me because it helps me to progress. But if you think that it is the absolute truth, you are sure to go wrong, for there is not a single thought which is the absolute truth. Ah, yes, we are going to put it in the books of the lending library of the university, one of Sri Aurobindo's short reflections, which is wonderful. I had printed that today, in which he says that any teaching, however great it may be, however pure, noble, true it may be, it is only one aspect of the truth and not the complete truth in itself. And it is not the entire truth. Well, that it is. Whatever your thought may be, even if it is very high, very pure, very noble, very true, it is only a tiny microscopic aspect of that truth, and consequently, it is not entirely true. So, in that field, one must be practical, as I said, adopt the thought for the time being, the one which will help you to make progress when you have it. Sometimes it comes with as an illumination, and this helps you to progress. So long as it helps you to make progress, keep it. When it becomes to crumble, not to act any longer, well, drop it and try another which will lead you a little farther. Our Divine Mother says many miseries, many misfortunes in the world would disappear if people knew the relativity of knowledge, the relativity of faith, the relativity of teachings, and also the relativity of circumstances. To what extent a thing is so relatively important? For the moment it must be capital. It may lead you to life or death. I am not speaking of physical life or death. I am speaking of the life and death of the spirit. But this is for the moment. When you have made a certain progress and when you have grown a few years older from the spiritual point of view, you look back on this thing, the circumstance, the idea which perhaps has decided your life. It seems so relative, so insignificant, and you will need something much higher to make a new progress. If one could always remember this well, one would avoid much sectarianism, much intolerance, and annul all quarrels immediately, because a quarrel means just this, that one thinks in one way, the other thinks in another. The one that has taken one attitude, the another has taken another. And instead of trying to bring them together and find out how they could be harmonized, one puts them over against each other as one fights with one's own fits. It is nothing else. But if you become aware of the complete relativity of your inner point of view, your thought, your conviction of what is good, what is bad, and to what extent it is in relative in the march of the universe, then you will begin to be less violent in your reactions, more tolerant in your thoughts, and here we are. These are the divine words of our Divine Mother.